I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Town Square Media's public affairs show, Tuned into NoCo, where we explore a little bit more about what matters in NoCo. I'm sitting down today with Katherine Yuma, the Development and Communications Director at Hearts and Horses, a nonprofit therapeutic riding facility here in Northern Colorado. So welcome, Katherine. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be
course.
here.
Tell me about Hearts and Horses. For those who don't know, what is it?
So Hearts and Horses is a therapeutic riding center in West Loveland. We have a wide array of programs for people with physical and cognitive disabilities. We also have programming for veterans, also for seniors with Alzheimer's and dementia. But our largest program is called Changing Leads, and it's for youth at risk in our community. And the way that works is we partner with different school districts and their counselors to identify students that may be having trouble in the classroom or maybe at home. And they get to come out to the ranch for 1 day a week for 8 weeks, and they get partnered with the horse, and they learn horsemanship skills and then also social emotional learning skills, which just kind of helps add tools to their toolkit that maybe if they have a trigger that usually leads to a negative behavior, some of the social emotional skills that we teach them in partnership with the horse just helps them maybe have a better response to the negative triggers.
Mm-hmm. So it really kind of caters to anyone in the Northern Colorado community who is struggling a little bit or needs some help.
Right. And we also have lots of volunteer opportunities. Hearts and Horses wouldn't exist without the volunteer force that we have. We have one of the larger volunteer programs in Northern Colorado and in Larimer County. So we have volunteer opportunities for every walk of life. And we've been told by several of our volunteers that volunteering at Hearts and Horses is the most rewarding work that people have done just because of the impact that it has on their riders and then also giving them fulfillment in the work that they do.
That's so awesome. Can you tell me a little bit more about how it came to exist? How did the organization come to be where it is now?
Yeah. So in 1997, Hearts and Horses was started by a group of volunteers. We were actually out on the Ellis Ranch, so we were on borrowed land with just a few horses in the program. And then when the Ellis Ranch, the ownership of the Ellis Ranch was selling it, the group of volunteers just knew that Hearts and Horses needed to continue on. And so that's when they decided to get incorporated, and we did a lease purchase agreement for the current property that we're on today. So we're out off County Road 29, Carter Lake Road. So we've been there since summer of 1999. And it's a 23-acre property, and we have 28 horses on the property, and we have about 200 riders, and we have about 250 volunteers that help support those 200 riders every week.
Very cool. Now, I know there's lots of animal therapy programs. I went to Colorado State, and they always brought therapy dogs in during finals week and things like that. So I have to ask, how did you guys come to choose horses to help people?
So that's asked a lot. So the reason why we use horses, there's actually many reasons. So I guess the most scientific reason is that the horse's gait most closely resembles a human's gait. So for someone that is unable to walk, when they're able to ride a horse without a saddle, so a lot of the times we'll just use a saddle pad or they can ride bareback. But for this type of participant, when they ride a horse, the neuroreceptors that get sent to their brain when they're riding a horse is telling their brain or giving them the sense of walking, because the three-dimensional movement in a horse's hip just kind of gives that sense to the person that has never or is unable to walk. And then also horses they're just exceptional creatures that live in the moment. They're non-judgmental. They just are about their herd, and they want to help people, and they mirror the way that you're feeling inside. So our Changing Leads program, we talk a lot about how the horses mirror. So if a student comes in having anxiety, the horse that they're working with will show signs of anxiety as well. And so if the participant can really look inside and focus on calming down and really just being in tune with the way they're feeling on the inside, it translates into how the horse is reacting and behaving around them. And also horses are super hyper vigilant, which most people do know. And that also helps with people with PTSD or anxiety issues. It just helps them have a connection with an animal that is hypervigilant and is always on the lookout for any potential threat or danger. So that is a reason why I think horses can connect with people that are struggling, because they feel what you're feeling, and then they also have that hypervigilance where they're always on guard, but then they're able to relax when they have built trust and get to know you.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. I didn't know they were such intuitive animals.
They are. They're very exceptional creatures.
How does therapeutic riding differ from regular riding, or what adjustments are made for these people who have disabilities?
That's a great question. So therapeutic riding, the way that we look at it at Hearts and Horses, we have two kind of umbrellas for therapeutic practices. So therapeutic riding is for people that have cognitive or physical disabilities that we are teaching them horsemanship skills. So it's really to give them an outlet and a place where they can learn a new skill and get comfortable around horses. But our therapy services program really focuses on the more medical and scientific practice of physical therapy and occupational therapy. So we just do that in partnership with the horse. So what the therapists have found is that if a participant is able to ride the horse upon arrival, they loosen up, they get much more flexible, they work on their core strength. And then when they come into the regular treatment rooms, the more traditional physical therapy and occupational therapy, the participant is more flexible. They're much more engaged in the traditional therapy after they have ridden the horse.
That's good to know. How do the horses differ from regular horses? Can any horse participate in this program, or do they need to be specially trained?
Well, we are always looking for good, sound, healthy horses to join the program. But most of our horses are retired working or show horses, so they are very well trained to begin with. But we have a very talented equine team that works on training all of our horses on a weekly basis. So it's not just one and done. It's an ongoing training that all of our horses undergo every week, just kind of working on different things that they will encounter during the day. A lot of it is around our mechanical lift that comes above their head. So working with the horses on just desensitizing them to some of the things that they will encounter, especially if someone doesn't have full motor function control. It's good to have a horse that is used to, movement or sounds and just things that they would encounter in a session. So the horses are definitely very, very well cared for. They're spoiled in a sense, but it does take a special horse. The horses that do come on to Hearts and Horses come in, for a 90-day trial period where they will work with our equine team with the training that they do, and then also in classes to make sure that they're a good fit for the program. And if they are after the 90 days, then they are fully brought on to be used in the programs.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more about these programs? I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I saw you have so many on your website. So can you just tell me a little bit about what those are?
We do. So I guess from the top, so we do have therapeutic riding, as I mentioned, is teaching horsemanship skills to individuals that have physical and cognitive disabilities, where we're not really working on a medical outcome. It's just really giving them a quality of life and an outlet to teach them horsemanship skills, and just having that relationship with the horse. And then therapy services is the physical therapy and the occupational therapy, and eventually we will incorporate speech into our therapy services. So that's more of the medical outcome base, where the physical and occupational therapists are really working at it from a medical standpoint, using the horse to loosen the participant up, build core strength, and getting them to a point where they're able to work on some of the more traditional therapies. And then we have our Riding in the Moment program, which is for seniors and people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And so Riding in the Moment is also purely about quality of life. We are teaching them, we let them ride, so it is teaching them horsemanship skills, but it's really just letting them have the experience outside of their primary care facilities, where they get to come to the ranch. And a lot of these people that we have in the Riding in the Moment program have ridden before or have lived on farms before, so it's a little nostalgic for them with the smell and just being able to ride, it just kind of brings back their past life a little bit, and just kind of gives them an outlet. And we have a couple of couples in our Riding in the Moment program that they get to come to Hearts and Horses as a couple, and it's something that they get to do together. And, the husbands will sidewalk with their wives, and it's just something that they say that the diagnosis doesn't really exist at Hearts and Horses. It's just a fun activity for them to do together. As their primary caregivers, a lot of it is about their care, and it's a lot of the times for the caregivers to, be focused on their care all the time. So when they get to come to the ranch and sidewalk with their partner while they're riding and just enjoying their experience, it's just a joy-filled experience. And then our veterans program is Hearts and Horses for Heroes. So we have veterans that are able to come out to the ranch and ride free of charge. And they work on just kind of social emotional learning and kind of reintegration into civilian life, which, as I think most people know, is very challenging for veterans when they come back from service. It just gives them a place where they can connect with the horse. I was mentioning earlier that the horses mirror how you're feeling, and that hypervigilance is very common in veterans, especially with people and veterans with PTSD. So that it just gives them an opportunity to connect with a large animal and build trust and be connected with the natural world. We like to take all of our participants, but the veterans really like to be out on the trail and ride in the outdoor arena where they can just breathe in that fresh mountain air and just kind of be present and in the moment, and just focus on healing and all of that. And then riding in the, I'm sorry, I already told you about riding.
No problem. You're all good.
And then Changing Leads is our youth at risk program. And so that's for youth at risk in the community that have been identified as from their school counselors if they're having trouble in school or maybe trouble at home. It gives them the opportunity to come out to the ranch and, again, connect with the horse and build trust with the horse and with their dedicated volunteer, and work on horsemanship skills. So a lot of these kids don't have access to learn how learn horsemanship skills. So Hearts and Horses gives them a place where they can come, be themselves, make friends, and really just focus on the social emotional learning and giving them the opportunity to connect with the horse and give them the opportunity to learn horsemanship skills where they wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds really fantastic. How can people get involved with Hearts and Horses, whether it's as someone who wants help, especially if they have a disability, or if someone just wants to volunteer?
Of course. So if there's someone that's looking to be a participant, they would just go to our website, which is www.heartsandhorses.org, and go to the participant intake form. So they would just fill out it's a very brief questionnaire where they just tell us kind of what their situation is and what their goals are. And then our program coordinator would set up a meet and greet with them where they would get invited out to the ranch, have a tour, so we can kind of get to know them, find out what the ultimate goal is, and then we can see where and what program they would fit best into. And then we have volunteer opportunities for everybody at Hearts and Horses. You can also apply on the website to become a volunteer at Hearts and Horses. So you would come out for a volunteer orientation where you can learn about all of the volunteer opportunities that we have. It ranges from equine care, so from barn team, or helping in classes with horse leading or sidewalking. We have administrative volunteers. We have facilities and ground upkeep volunteers. So there's really something for everybody out at Hearts and Horses. And again, Hearts and Horses wouldn't exist without our volunteer force. They are the heart and soul of our organization. And we are so grateful for our community. They're community of volunteers that come out every day to help take care of our equines and also help in our classes. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
With so many people involved, I'm sure there's so many stories that have come out of Hearts and Horses. And I know you are a bit new there, so no pressure. But how have you seen the program impact someone specifically since you've been there?
Oh, there's so many examples of the impact. My first couple weeks at the ranch, I was worried that I was going to cry every day, but happy tears of it's so inspiring when you just get to see someone that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to get on a horse. And when they get on that horse and the smile that appears on their face, it's just incredible. I mean, it's hard to explain really, but when you see the smiles of these people, and it's from, age 4 to 99, the smiles, they speak for themselves. It's just brings pure joy to their face, and you can tell that they're just in their happy place when they're there. I mean, there's several examples of participants that I've seen that, when they come for physical therapy or occupational therapy, and they're having these breakthrough moments where they're adjusting their core on their own without having to be prompted or have anybody help them. It's just evidence that they can feel that movement in their hips, and then they automatically shift their core to sit up more straight. And that in itself, just having core strength, I think a lot of people take for granted, but when you're on a horse, it's very, very important. So there are several examples. I could talk all day about the impact.
I do have one last question. It's going to be a little hard for you, but do you have a favorite horse? And who is it?
I'm not supposed to have favorites, but of course I have a favorite. I have many favorites. I have a handful of them. Right now, my favorite equine on the property, her name is Lass, and she's a mammoth jackstock donkey. And she is a very special equine. As far as we know, she's one of the only mammoth jackstock donkeys in PATH certified accredited facilities. So she's a very special creature, but she just loves snuggles, and she loves to please people. And she likes when you come and visit her, and you can hear her bray when you first get there. She's obviously a donkey, so her call is very loud, and she's quite the presence out there, and we're very lucky to have her. And I have many favorites. My boss's horse is just a very large, beautiful black mare, and she's just very intimidating in a sense, although she's a very sweet horse. She's just so large that I'm always in awe of her. But she's used quite frequently in our veterans program because she is such a sturdy steed. And she's also used in our therapeutic riding programs because she's pretty unfazable. She can handle most things. So she's just a very impressive creature. But I would have to say Lass is likely my favorite.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Katherine, for coming in today and talking to me about this. It was so much fun to learn about hearts and horses, and I'm really glad we have something like this in Northern Colorado.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
Again, that was Katherine Yuma, the Development and Communications Manager at Hearts and Horses, a nonprofit therapeutic riding facility in Northern Colorado. If you would like to learn more about the program, you can visit heartsandhorses.org.